Thank you for joining us for this episode of Who Does She Think She Is? Audacious financial journeys with tremendous Black women. I'm Mele Miller, 30-year bank exec that you wish has always been your friend. Who does she think she is? Today, I'm excited to introduce you to an actress turned manager. She is incredible. Her name is Kiaira Ladd, and we are delighted to have you on the show today.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm very excited to be here. It's totally my pleasure. I'm excited to talk to you today.
We've been nonstop chatting since the moment that you came into the building.
Right.
And so I want to make sure we keep that energy flowing because you have so many incredible things to share with us. I had to turn myself off and stay away from you until we turn the mics on. The world sees you through one lens. Who do they think you are?
I think they see me, one, as a Black woman. I think that the world sees me as a successful Black woman. I think what comes along with being a successful Black woman, sometimes there may be that, negative stigmas of how did you get there? Or are you angry? Do you have an attitude? Are you tough? And does tough, sometimes equate with bad? But I don't think so. And especially not in my case. But I think that, I'm a Black woman and I just feel like I'm just kind of thriving and kind of doing my thing, and I think that it's I don't know. I feel weird because I'm talking about myself, but I do feel like, that's what other people see. Do I always feel like that? I don't know. But that's kind of what I think people may see.
Who is they?
I would say they are people, outsiders who don't really know me, maybe just know me from work. That might be they. People that I work with, I collaborate with, people within my network. I also think they, kind of with this new transition in my career, is kind of being a manager / momager to my kids. And I think they is also like, people in my home. So my husband, my kids, my daughter, and how she sees me. But I think, it's all positive, when I'm talking about those they, that makes sense, those they.
Who we are referring to, who you're describing.
Yeah.
That perspective matters enough because that, in a way, is our brand.
Yeah.
Your children are stars. You were a star first.
Yeah.
So can you share with us some of those critical credentials or experiences that have prepared you for this?
Right. I was a broadcast journalism major in college. I thought I was going to be, I love sports. I thought I was going to be a sports reporter. I was going to be on TV.
Okay, let me clink your glass to that. I wish this was one, but it's still a little early for that.
I know.
After.
We can still sip,
I mean, yes. Let's pretend.
But yes, I really found my passion while I was in college tutoring student athletes. Kind of weird. I needed a job. My best friend, she was like, hey, I'm a tutor in the athletic department. Maybe you should do that. And I'm like, okay, I'll do that. So I become a tutor and I loved it, because I felt like I was really helping people. I'm kind of a nurturer by nature. So it was kind of like, okay, I'm helping these my students. They're, we're studying, we're putting in the work, they're getting the results. I'm like, this is really fulfilling, and TV, I had done an internship and it didn't seem as fulfilling as I thought it was going to be. So I never really pursued TV when I graduated college. It was just kind of a time in my life where I was still kind of figuring things out. And so I was like, you know what, I think I'm going to go back to school and, get my degree, get my master's so that I can work with student athletes. And so I got my master's in student development administration. So prepares you for student services in higher education. My first job was here at Long Beach State. I worked there for 3 years. And after working there, I worked at the University of Washington for 10 years.
University of Washington in Seattle?
Seattle, yes.
Hey.
Yes. Worked there for 10 years, worked with the football team for 10 years. Good. And, that was really kind of where I started to really, my profession, I grew as a professional, right? I oversaw all the academics for the football team there. And so being in that position, I had staff under me. I managed a group of people. I dealt with very high profile coaches.
You were managing talent.
Yes, I was managing talent.
Budgets.
Yes, all of that, making sure my kids were eligible. If they weren't eligible, that's going to be in the newspaper. And they're going to be like,
that is full
what's
PR.
going on with the academic counselors that,
I love how you're drawing out these points where it is so directly related to what you're doing now.
Exactly.
And it is all crossover.
It all crosses over.
I love this because you were preparing
over.
yourself for a different kind of destiny.
Right. Didn't even know it. Then I started having my own kids, right?
Sure.
And so I'm having my own kids and the work it's getting a little more tedious, a little more pressure. The pressure didn't really bother me, but it was like, I'm putting a lot of energy and focus into kids that are not mine. They're mine, but they're not,
them,
so I love them,
yes.
but it's kind of like, at a certain point, there's only so much I can do for them, right? And so it's like with your own kids, that I wouldn't say that there's only so much you can do for them at a certain point as well. But, they're in your home, like you can kind of build their foundation, their morals, their values, you can kind of,
you have more autonomy over the entire environment.
Exactly.
You can curate that experience just a little bit. You could even like down to the what time you go to bed, sir.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yes. At what point did you go all in to being a manager?
Really within the last 3 years. So we have a really interesting story. While I was working and raising my kids, we started to model and act on the side. My husband actually kicked all of this off in 2013 when he was, his sister was working with a local agent in Seattle and she gave her a wedding picture of my husband. And then the lady's like, oh my God, I want to work with him.
Right.
Yeah. His first audition, he went on, he got this job. He was all over billboards and
oh my goodness, wait,
grocery carts. Yes,
that
his first
rare.
His first job, right? And so and he's like, well, I have a family, I have a wife, I have kids, and so
and they're also good looking,
right? Thank you. So
in those beautiful powder blue suits and just looking like $1 million.
Thank you.
Hair is sitting just right.
I'm trying.
It's not even right.
I'm trying. But he kind of brought us along. So we all kind of started to, do these jobs. And it was literally like a side hustle, I'd say, a side job. Like we still had our regular jobs, but, and we never really even auditioned. Our agent would call us and be like, hey, we have a job for you guys. It's like Getty Images, like go on shoots, pictures. And my kids got involved. My kids were doing it too. My daughter, she booked her first kind of big job when she literally just turned 3. She booked a job with Seattle Children's Hospital. And it was a huge campaign in Seattle. She was billboards. She was on buses. She was everywhere. Her little commercial.
Very familiar.
Yes.
Shout out to Seattle Children's Hospital.
Seattle Children's Hospital. And everyone who worked on the project, they came from LA. So my husband took her to the shoot and they're like, your daughter is amazing. Like she is so good. She takes direction well.
I know as a mom, you were like, I have arrived.
I was, but at the same time, that was never in my thought, right?
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like, okay, this is great. And they're like, you guys should really, keep her in it and, think about moving to LA. And we're like, yeah, right. Like
that's
LA, that's a lot. We're up in the quarter in Seattle, moved to LA.
So when did it click?
This.
Where you're like, this, definitely this.
Well, my daughter always really showed that she was interested in kind of pursuing this field, and she has a real star quality about her. And everyone would always tell us.
Her mama.
Yeah, thank you. We moved to Arizona, not even trying to pursue this business, but we pursued for my job. Yeah. And really we were looking for a change as a family. So we moved to Arizona. At that point, I had retired from working with student athletes.
Okay.
I got my real estate license because I felt like my husband had gotten his real estate license. We could be, he had some success. I felt we could be good at this and it freed up my time. And I find her an acting coach. I'm like, we're getting back on this. I wasn't working, a typical 9 to 5. I had my real estate license, so I had the flexibility. And on the heels of COVID, kind of going into 2021, she signs with a manager here in LA. She signs with an agent in LA. The agents met her on a Zoom call and they're kind of like auditioning her, just asking her questions.
Who is this young woman?
So I get on the call. Our manager, she's like, yeah, that's the mom. And she's like, they're a whole family. And they're like, oh, well, we want to sign the whole family.
Stop.
And so,
Okay.
So that's kind of how it came to be.
Wow. This transition of we are a full-time talent-based family.
Right.
This isn't a single career.
No.
This is a family member career.
Family business.
Shift that also means we are moving. Were there some mistakes that you made earlier in this process that you find value in calling out and talking about right now for others that are looking at this work?
I mean, I think you question that every day almost. Like if you're not working, if the jobs aren't coming like you think the bookings aren't coming like you think they should. I try not to get too high or too low. In this this business, you can have extreme highs and extreme lows.
I wish I had a cocktail.
Times where
this is good. Yes,
times
please.
where it's super busy, times where it slows down tremendously. So where's the middle ground for you? How do you stay grounded? How do you mentally stay ready? We took a leap of faith when we moved to LA. Between the months of March of 2021 and June of 2021, we were driving back and forth from Arizona to LA. We would stay in LA for like 2 to 3 weeks at a time, work, go home for maybe a week, come back to LA. It was crazy.
Bless you. That is commitment.
It was.
The journey.
Right.
The hustle.
That's what it is.
The family, the connection.
That's what it is.
Can you walk me through a day in the life of Kiaira Ladd, the entertainment manager?
Typically, because of the business that we're in, my kids are homeschooled. My kids have been home with me for 4 years straight since COVID.
She's still smiling, y'all. She's still smiling.
They've been home with me for 4 years straight. And, that's fine. The good thing is I'm not their teacher. So because of COVID, there's been a lot of different change in homeschools. My kids are actually literally like logging into a class. They have someone who teaches them.
Okay.
My daughter right now, she's on 2 animated shows. One that's on PBS and one that's on Disney Junior.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's very exciting. And so we go to set, she records, we go home, she goes to class for 2 hours.
Okay.
While she's in class, I'm answering my emails. I'm making sure our schedules are set. If we're getting new scripts, I'm printing those out, making sure that the kids are getting prepared so that they can work on auditions.
Yeah.
Then I'm putting on my accountant hat because I'm managing all of the finances. And then it's like, okay, time to go back to Burbank and go to your second job. And we go to the next job. And she works there for maybe 2 hours.
Okay. So you are the tutor. You're the advisor. You are their coach. You are their chauffeur.
Yes.
You are.
Yes.
I could go on and on. And also you're their mom. And there was this recent study done. I think Forbes did it, also McKinsey. There's a couple of organizations that put a dollar amount on how much mothers should get paid for what they do. Now we slide in this whole manager component into it. You're running a business where you are the talent and then also your children.
Right.
Whew. How do you even begin to scratch the surface and navigate pay equity when it's your kids?
Right.
How did you decide what to pay yourself?
I'm kind of still working on that, I guess.
Okay.
Because the thing is I really had to break it down and think about what it is that's happening.
Right.
My goal was never to be an actress. My goal was never to be on TV. I literally kind of fell into this. And so when it happened, I always knew eventually managing my kids' careers.
Yes.
And so when it got to that point, it's kind of like, okay, well, a manager takes 10 to 20%.
Do you pay yourself?
Well, I would say so. I mean, I would say,
cool.
all of our money is kind of like mixed together and commingled. But I think especially now that I'm kind of not on the talent side anymore, I'm much more mindful of taking my percentage, my 15%. Okay. But I pick and choose when. I mean, it's kind of like, and because my kids, they have a Coogan account, right?
Yes,
they have a trust account.
I was going to ask you about that. Can you tell listeners and viewers what that is in the state of California?
In the state of California, working children or child actors, they are required to have a Coogan account. And the Coogan account is a trust account that the kids can access when they're 18 years old. And so they're in every job that they do, even residual checks that they receive, the minimum percentage is 15%. So that's the bare minimum. But you can take all of their money, put it in the Coogan, however you choose to. The rest is intended. And so honestly, in my mind, I feel like that's kind of where you pay yourself. Because if you think about it, it's like, okay, if I'm not working, right, and I'm their manager, I'm their chauffeur, I'm their stylist, I'm doing everything. And so the bills have to get paid. And so it's like that money that's kind of left over, it has to all kind of go into the household or what we like to call our family business, right?
So I appreciate and I'm so glad that the Coogan account exists.
Yes.
Because it is meant to protect the future of these child actors and actresses, because quite honestly, not every mom is you. You are incredible. And we've heard a lot of scary stories about parents who are not sharing those earnings with the talent.
Right.
Separating business and personal expenses
Yes.
is critical. It's critical for
Right.
taxes.
Yeah.
It's critical for the write-offs. There's
Yep.
all of
Absolutely.
these benefits for those that are out there that do work from home or do have businesses that embrace their families, making sure that you're tracking and carving out separately and demonstrating what you are enjoying, because it is a part of generally accepted accounting principles and business financial management that people that are doing the work are getting paid.
Absolutely.
A certain minimum reasonable salary.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing that you're doing that. Yes.
Yes.
That's 2 jobs.
It
We're
is.
not even talking about the management piece.
No, it's a lot. I mean, and it's crazy because this is the first year where the light bulb turned on, and it because we were not getting paid. And you know how I found out that this was happening?
Oh, wait, you're saying that the middle person, the middle group.
The middle group. Yes.
Help me with the language.
Yes.
What's the middle group called?
So our agents.
Agents,
So the
okay.
way a lot of times you get paid in this business is, you sign a check authorization form. So the check authorization basically says that, yeah, I'm going out and I'm, the talent, but my checks, my earnings go to my agency.
Okay.
My agency gets the check. They take their percentage. And then they take, but by the time they get the check, the Coogan has already come out. So that's already, so they're
Sure.
not responsible.
So the children
So
have gotten
they've
their-
already gotten their part.
the young talent.
Yes, they get the check. And so once the agency gets the check, then it's, like I said, it's their job to pay themselves.
The agency, based on the contract.
Right.
they'll
They
take
get their cut.
Right.
If you have a manager, they get their cut. So whether
Sure.
it's 10, 15%, whatever, they get their cut. And then they'll cut a new check and send that to you.
So since there's
Yours.
no longer a manager cut from the agency, that cut would be yours, in theory.
In theory.
In theory, you would get it and move forward with that, and the rest would go to the business.
Right.
This is so valuable. What was the
Right?
best piece of advice you've gotten being intentional about this process or learning about how to manage this process from a financial accountability perspective?
So one of the things that I did learn in that process, and this is what I will tell anyone who asks me and share with anybody who's, new to the business, trying to get into the business, is the first thing that an agent or a manager is going to do when you sign with them is they're going to say, hey, here's the check authorization form so we can get checks on your behalf. Sign this. You're going to sign it because you don't know any better. You're like, this is how it works. This is normal. I'm going to sign this. They're still going to pay me. You don't have to do that. So when we were going through this process, 2 different people told me they don't have to get your checks first. You can actually get your checks and you can pay them.
Oh, who has the power in that moment?
I have the power.
Yes. What other red flags should others look for if they are signing or when they're signing with an agency?
I think you definitely want to vet the agency. I mean,
okay.
It's crazy because
Say more about how you should vet.
Yeah. Are they a SAG-AFTRA franchised agency? SAG is, the union.
Screen Actors Guild.
Right. And so if you are in SAG, you have built-in protections. And there are certain laws, rules that productions have to follow, right? They have to pay you in a certain amount of time. There's, as far as like your working hours, like there's a lot of things with SAG, like where there's protection.
Yeah.
So if you are with an agency, SAG-AFTRA franchised, then that means they have to adhere to the SAG industry rules and standards. And so if they don't, you can call SAG and you can have SAG and look into it or whatever.
There's accountability there.
Exactly.
You're not on your own.
Exactly.
Is there a premium that you do end up having to pay or budget for if you're signing with an agency that has the SAG certification or membership or AFTA?
So the way it works with SAG is you basically earn credits. And so when you earn credits based on jobs you do, that's when you are maybe required to join SAG. Or if you book a job, you may be required to join SAG. So I would say that it's costly though. Like it's one of those things where if you've done a couple SAG jobs and the money is, it's okay. I mean, it can be good, but it's not just like, oh my God, I got this, I'm rich. Like, not at all, right? And so, no. So sometimes if it is the point where you get a job and it's like, okay, I've got to pay the $3,000 or whatever it is today to join SAG, it's like, oh, where am I going to get that from? These jobs that I worked that were SAG, I did this 3 years ago. Like, I don't have any money to join SAG. So that's the thing. You just kind of have to be prepared to know, like, I'm getting closer to possibly having to join the union. So let me kind of keep some money to the side.
Yes. I'm hearing budget.
Yes, budget.
Shoulder shimmy.
Yes, budget.
Yeah. I have fun questions for you now.
Okay.
What are some of your favorite movies and TV shows to watch right now? Yours, not the kids, not even yours.
Mine. My husband and I talk about this all the time. It's really hard for me to watch TV and movies with the same eye that I did before we were in the business.
I'm sure.
It kind of ruined it for us.
I bet.
So you're looking at things like, oh, that shirt, he clearly just put that shirt on because it has the lines from like being folded or whatever,
You're such a disappointment, amateur.
It's more critical, right? Yeah. But shows that I like, I kind of go back. I kind of stick to what I like, what I know. My favorite movie is Lady Sings the Blues. I love the movie.
Okay.
I love Diana Ross. I love she's glamorous. The movie,
she's
Billie Holiday's story,
Mm-hmm.
the acting, the singing, I thought that was amazing. Coming to America, I like Eddie Murphy.
The first
comedy.
or
the first.
Okay.
That's
just have to clarify.
The first, yes. Shows that I like. I'm a 90s kid, so I'm like, all the 90s Martins, Different Worlds,
shout out. Different World.
all those.
Yes.
Yeah, I like
Moesha,
those. Yes,
all of them.
Moesha. But I loved Insecure. I thought Insecure was phenomenal. The acting, the story.
It was borderline triggering for me because I recognized myself in some of those really awkward, painful moments.
Yeah, it was a beautifully put together show. Just from the cinematography, the music, like the way that show was done, I thought was top tier.
So I have to ask, as a former leader and administrator in academia, what do you think about Abbott Elementary?
I don't watch it.
Oh, you haven't tasted it yet? You haven't sampled?
So this is the thing. I guess I'll share this. This is also a business where you can take things really personal, right? So
okay.
My kids have auditioned for Abbott Elementary several times.
Really?
And they've never booked.
All right.
And, I think there's fair reasons for that, but, sometimes it puts a sour taste in your mouth.
I'm sure it does.
So it's nothing personal. Obviously, if the kids got on the show and it's like, oh, okay, Abbott, but it's, or worked on another project with them, but it's kind of like, I don't really.
Okay. Is this mom talking or manager talking?
Mom.
Okay, cool.
because the manager part of me, like I said, if I'm not going to say that they, it's not personal where it's like, well, they want to audition for this, or then they'll probably be my best, and they book them. Then I love that show.
Are there any directors or actors that you would love for your family to work with or your children to work with?
Denzel, of course.
Of course.
Taraji P. Henson. Yeah. My kids have worked with some cool people so far.
Who?
Both of my kids actually were on 911 with Angela Bassett. My daughter, the character she played in the show was a little girl who got murdered. And it's heavy, but she was kind of the reason that Angela Bassett's character became a cop. My son was in episode 1, and my daughter, I think her episode is 3.
Wow.
And they didn't know that they were like related or anything. They just both booked the jobs like independently. It was kind of weird.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I think what you realize being in this industry, it's such a small world. Like you think it's this huge world, but it's really not. There's constant crossover.
Yes.
Like people that we work with, people that we know. Oh, you work with them on this project. They're on this project, or just, it's crazy. So yeah.
Okay. So you knew this question was coming. Of all the movies and shows that your children have been in, which has been your favorite?
I'm going to answer your question, but a little different. It's actually a commercial, and it's the Super Bowl commercial.
I saw it. It's amazing. I was watching it before you got here today. I'm not going to lie. Yes, but could you describe it to us?
So the commercial, it's called Bring Down the House. It was 2.5 minutes, and it aired literally right before the halftime show. So right before the Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg,
That's
that
like a marathon for commercials.
Yes.
If folks don't know.
Yes.
I feel like every person on the planet aspires to be in a Super Bowl commercial.
Right. That's the
they're
goal.
The best. That is the entertainment.
Yeah, and it's an audience. There's people who don't even like football.
Sitting down with a beverage and snacks, ready for those commercials with more attention than the game.
Absolutely. Exactly.
Exactly.
And you're not
that
alone.
Is why I remember that commercial.
Yeah, you're not alone.
They know their market.
Yeah.
And their market is everybody.
Everybody.
So at some point, you may have considered transitioning the manager role to someone else.
Well, yeah. So my kids actually have another manager.
Okay.
So we kind of work in tandem. So it's like what's key here is representation, having the right people to represent you, people who have the right network, people who have been in this business and have made the right connections.
Trust, values.
we had a manager originally. Like I said, we didn't re-sign with her after about a year and a half. In the meantime, for a few months, I was kind of solely doing the managing, but we still had an agent. So some people are always like, you have an agent, why do you need a manager? And I would say because the manager is a little more personal, but what I felt like I should get from the manager, I wasn't getting from the manager that we had at first. So that's why I was like, well, I can do what she's doing. Like, I can send emails, I can get their work permit, I can, I can do all these things. The agency that they were at, the agent left and became a manager at a company that represents the likes of Jamie Foxx, Leonardo DiCaprio.
Just a couple of no-namers.
Just a few. Just a few big name A-listers, right? So they literally tapped her to start their children's division because they have all these, A-list actors, but they don't have the kids division. So they tapped her to start that based on her experience and success that she had as an agent. Later that night, she texted me and she's like, hey, would you be interested? And, I'm going to, I really would be interested in, signing your kids, like bringing your kids with me. When I researched the company, I'm like, yeah, but I try to play it cool a little bit.
Sure, because you know, masterful, this is your game. It's your game. You do what feels right to you.
Yeah. So when she signed with them, and so she was like, I'm going to, she's like, I understand if you don't want to. She's like, but just know I really want them. Like, I'm going to keep bothering you about this.
Oh, I like that.
And, she didn't have to do all that because my thing was there's a lot that I'm managing already without like having to have the industry connections, the network. I mean, she has built that. She has that.
There's the business framework and the administrative framework. There's the industry.
Exactly.
All these components.
So right. She's well versed in all of it, but especially the industry. I think this is a good move. Her commission made sense.
Her commission was acceptable to you and aligned with your budget.
Exactly. It was aligned with my budget. I knew that there were certain auditions, even if, for example, there's a movie that my daughter auditioned for. I knew they weren't. Sometimes after a while, you start to know what they're looking for. And you're like, they don't want a little black girl for this. Like, you just know. Like, you just can keep it real. Like, you kind of know.
I have to ask you, is it the way that they list it?
No, it's
words that they use?
It's the script kind of, and if it's like a remake of a certain kind of movie, like, it's just different little nuances where you kind of know that they probably they're not looking for a black little girl. But the whole idea is you want to get in front of casting directors. You want to have an opportunity for them, even if they know they're not going to pick you, at least they see you. They can see you on tape. So you're in their kind of their Rolodex, right? So they may know like what they're really looking for, but it's like, hey, we want her, we want to see her. So yeah, let's let her audition. So she auditioned for one role and I knew that like she probably wasn't going to get it. So she doesn't. And I find out later, like the woman who's starring in the movie is someone who is represented by the same entertainment management company. And so it's like, well, that's the connection right there. Like their manager, she, that's in their wheelhouse. Like this is their client. This is a movie she's doing.
Trust, reputation, consistency. Yes.
Like, they represent Jamie Foxx. If Jamie Foxx is looking for a movie with a, 13-year-old girl, like my daughter will most likely get an audition because they're in that same.
Yes.
And they're keeping it in the family, right? So she may not get the role, but they're probably going to give her a look.
There's visibility, right?
Yeah.
I love that.
So I knew she had those type of connections. So when she made the move and she wanted to bring the kids, I was like, I thought about it. I said, I think this is a good move because you can kind of really do the industry stuff and I can manage the in-house, the administration, the money. I can do all those things. And we work in tandem. I trust her. She doesn't make any decisions without my okay. Everything is ran by me. And, her thing is, these are your kids. Like, you tell me what I can do for you. And so that's why, so when
and so
when it's like, and some people are like, well, I thought you were the kids manager. And I'm like, well, I am. I'm like their life manager. But she has another level of, the industry, like we said, like, and that's something that I'm still learning. And my background is in education, right? So this is all new to me.
Which is also very critical.
It is.
When you were talking about those auditions, you pointed out that the value of getting in front of these directors and these production companies was being seen. I see and appreciate all of your talents and all of your expertise that you're bringing to the table and delivering at an extremely high level. We started the conversation with, who do they think you are? Who do you know you are?
I'm a badass woman. Thank
you for saying
at a certain point, you got to own it, right?
Please
and
own it. I needed that. I needed that to come full circle.
I do.
Thank you.
I feel like at a certain point, and I'm sorry that I used that word.
Oh, please don't apologize for being gloriously you. Please don't.
I say this all the time. When you're in something,
yes,
and if you are built a certain way, you just do it, right?
You're just built different.
I'm built different.
Thank you. Thank you. Please don't tiptoe around that garbage.
I'm built different.
I'm not here for the, I'm here for the,
no, I guess
this is me.
I'm built different.
I am so grateful that you came here today to share it with us. My favorite part, I'm not going to lie, was when you told us who you are. And that is exactly why this show exists, because we need to hear it straight from your mouth and not anybody else's.
No, you're right. I mean, and we got some skin in the game now. So, you know.
Yes, need to lean over and dust your, do I need to get the.
Dust off my shoulder, you know.
Yes. Okay, so it has been an absolute pleasure to have you here.
It's been a pleasure to be here with you today.
And I could talk to you forever.
I know, we could just keep going, right?
We don't even have wine. That was just sparkling water. Not just, it was delicious sparkling water.
It was.
And you've been here enjoying Who Does She Think She Is? I'm your host, Mele Miller, finance expert and bad bitch. And thank you so much to our guest, a fellow baddie.